What's up everybody, this is Danny and this is the nighttime portion of the Galaxy S23 Ultra versus the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And if you haven't seen the daytime one yet, then make sure you check that out. I will leave that link down below. But we're going to test these cameras out in every condition at nighttime and we're going to see which one comes out on top for nighttime photos and video. Let's do it. Here's another example of what I shot in Korea. I didn't know at the time that it was going to be a separate video, but I want to talk about the front-facing 4K video quality. Unlike the rear-facing camera, the image is softer on the S23 Ultra as you can see and also noisier, so even though they both aren't the best for nighttime front-facing video, the iPhone does look better in this scenario. Okay, finally, let's get into the nighttime or low light photos. This one is a little more clear so I can get to the point much faster. I'm seeing that without night mode, the image is still noisier on the S23 Ultra and the shutter is still slightly delayed. So when you punch into the image, you can see the difference immediately when it comes to clarity and motion blur. This walking shot shows this well. The motion blur is still in effect as you can see, and this is with the instant shutter on in the camera assistant too, by the way, for those that were wondering. With the ultra wide, it wasn't as bad since they were farther away from the frame, but the noise is still very evident on this shot. Not sure what happened on the S23 Ultra here. After updates, I did notice there's better foreground detail, which I'm very happy about. Take a look at the ground here. The S23 Ultra is sharper. Look at this cropped in version. You can really see the difference in the detail that is picked up by the S23 Ultra, so this is a good thing. I did see this multiple times. Take a look here on the ground. Same thing, so this was looking very promising. Again, there is more noise in the sky and the noise reduction is better on the iPhone, but I was glad to see this improvement happen. But there's a caveat here. When night mode is engaged, you will notice that it goes in the opposite direction. The softening happens again, so the foreground is looking softer again while the iPhone sharpens it up all around. If you crop in, you can see there is a huge difference, so it looks like more software tuning is needed to fix this. If you look on the Samsung shots, there is almost too much noise reduction, giving it a halo effect to the image. Look at how soft the bricks are here again on the ground. I took this image again just to make sure it wasn't me, but the same results on the second shot as well. On some of the shots, I actually like this softer look without the heavy sharpening. Like on this one, it looks really good. This is definitely going to be a preference thing, but this one really shows the noise reduction and the results of the detail. You can see it even all the way from here, but then when you punch in, you can really see it. So Samsung, if you're watching this, I would love some software magic on this. Regardless of how you feel about the processing, again, there is more of a vibe to the processing of the S23 Ultra. It looks a little bit more cinematic, so I wouldn't blame you if you like it. What's funny is in this 3x portrait shots, the textures are sharp. Take a look at here. So I know it's definitely a software thing. Here's another 3x portrait mode shot, and they both do a great job, so no complaints here, especially for how dark it was. And you can see the two different approaches. Samsung has the bright and detailed style, where the iPhone went for the more accurate color interpretation with the more detailed background blur, so let me know which one that you like more. Here's one of Miles. You can find him at Miles Above Tech everywhere. He makes some great short form content, so make sure you check him out. Again, the same approach here when it comes to the main sensor, brighter and slightly softer versus a flatter, more accurate to the scene approach. The 3x portrait here though really shows you what night mode can do for the 3x portrait shots. I hope the iPhone adds this in very soon with the software update. This is literally like night and day. Like any other camera comparison, I think the nighttime shots are going to heavily depend on what you want out of night mode. I can see exactly where Samsung is going with the processing, like with this 200 megapixel shot of the bridge versus the 48 megapixel Apple ProRAw. It's a more punchy and eye-catching interpretation, which I think the general public would pick in a blind test. You do lose some of the dynamic range again on the S23 Ultra, so that equates to smoother overall processing on the iPhone, but I think we have learned that brighter and more colorful is usually the winner with the customers, so I believe that both have their strengths and weaknesses, but I almost believe there will never be a perfect camera. It's just what camera fits your lifestyle best and what features you actually use and what you will never use. Look at the cityscape shot. Let me know which one that you like better, the brighter, more day-like picture or the flatter, more natural shot. I am glad to report that I was getting a lot of banding in the sky before the update, especially with the 200 megapixel shots, but it looks like that is improved here from my testing so far. Now, what I would love to see is maybe something like a degree of night mode choice as a default, maybe a natural or bright toggle setting for night mode, and then if you wanted to switch it, you can do that in the editor. Now, that would be awesome. But even in its current state, there are plenty of good things about the processing on the S23 Ultra, especially on the shadow detail side of things. Look at this one, the tree is pretty much lost on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but on the Galaxy S23 Ultra, the color is even retained on that tree with plenty of detail. Here is a crop in to see exactly what's going on with the photos in terms of sharpness and detail. Even though this is a blurry shot on the S23 Ultra, the glass panels are not a solid blue color that is interpreted by the iPhone. It does have more purple in it like the S23 Ultra is showing. While they are not both 100% accurate, it is closer to what the S23 Ultra is showing, so that is a positive step. I still like the red replication on the iPhone better, so no Coca-Cola building test in Korea, but you get the idea on this neon sign. I don't want to forget about the high resolution and zoom, so let's do a quick zoom test first. At 3x, you can see that the S23 Ultra is better with night mode engaged. And then here is the 10x optical with night mode. And then here is the 30x hyper zoom, which I really don't use that much at night. Here is a full range test. This is the main lens. The iPhone this time with the brighter approach and more detail in the foreground. The 3x looks good on both, but this time around, the iPhone actually looks cleaner on this one. Here is the 10x optical versus the 10x digital, and this is a huge difference. The S23 Ultra looks much better, which is expected. Then here is the 15x digital on the iPhone versus the 30x on the S23 Ultra. It's the same outcome again, and here is the 100x zoom, just in case you wanted to see what it looks like at night. Next up are the high resolution images. The S23 Ultra can shoot up to 200 megapixels, as you can see here, where the iPhone 14 Pro Max can shoot up to 48 megapixels in ProRAw. And these are both super detailed. I want to show you a 50 megapixel shot since you get two choices of high resolution on the S23 Ultra. When you punch in, you can see that the S23 Ultra is a little more sharpened, but it also picks up more details, so that's impressive. Here is a 200 megapixel shot, and the natural bokeh on both of these are impressive in this scenario. I know I talked about the banding getting better, but on this one, I can still see it present, so I hope that they work further to improve this with software updates. But look at the detail of the foreground on that rail. That is super impressive for a high resolution night shot. This is more detailed than my eyes could actually see at that time. Here is another example. This time the S23 Ultra with the brighter and more colorful approach. Punch in and you can see that they both capture great details, and while the iPhone exposes better here at the bright light, preserving that texture, the Samsung does capture more of the detail here. So let me know which one that you think did better in this scenario. Last thing I wanted to touch on is the front-facing camera. It depends on the lighting scenario that you are in to see the major difference. Here, not so much, but in this one, the iPhone 14 Pro Max took a sharper shot with more detail on everybody's face. Dynamic range is better on the S23 Ultra here. Yes, that is a fake moon. Insert the jokes below, but you can clearly see it on the Samsung. Both of these don't have the best color, but when the iPhone picks up the warm colors or red, it goes turbo. I look like a carrot here. The nighttime portrait mode on the front-facing camera is significantly better on the S23 Ultra, as you can see, so keep that in mind if you use this mode a lot. Okay, so let's end this with nighttime video. This is a walking shot so you can see the stabilization. They both do a great job. I might say the S23 Ultra is slightly smoother, but it's pretty much neck to neck, so let me know if you can actually see the difference. Now, while the video is noisier, the image is actually sharper on the S23 Ultra, so night video has come a long way. Again, the noise reduction is where the iPhone is still winning. You really can't see this until you punch in. Now you can see the noise pretty clearly in the sky. With the iPhone, it's really clean, so I think this is the biggest differentiator. This makes a big difference to me, but for some of you, you might not care. But this is why the iPhone is always my go-to video camera at night recording. When it comes to the 3x telephoto lens video recording, there is more noise on the iPhone than the main sensor, obviously, but it's still noticeably better with less artifacting. So this is what makes the iPhone still the best for video, but the difference in lens flaring is huge. So if you pick up the S23 Ultra just for that reason, I would not hate it at all. Again, I really hope Apple prioritizes this in the next generation of iPhones. Okay guys, that was an extensive one, but I hope you enjoyed it. This is how these two phones stand with the software updates as going into summer 2023. If things change, I will follow up. Let me know if you're impressed with the software updates on the S23 Ultra, or do you think the iPhone 14 Pro Max is the king? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for a lot more just like this one, and I will see you in the next one.